Hi, my name is Charles Malki, biologist and plant expert with Ivory Organics, where we grow cool plants. And in this lesson, I've got 5 educational tips for banana plant care. And today's our harvest day. Here we are mid-June. Check out these bananas. And just next to that, and when I'm up on that wall, I'm even going to give you some close-up shots. Check out that bloom that's happening right there with what's called the apple, or more specifically the manzano variety of. The ones that we're going to be harvesting today are known as the blue java, or the ice cream banana. And we've been harvesting this together now this is our 3rd year. We've consistently harvested between 55 and 60 pounds per bunch. And in this educational lesson, we're going to cover these 5 helpful banana care tips, which include harvesting, transplanting, cloning, feeding, and mulching. So let's get started. So the first tip when it comes to harvesting is to bring the bananas down. My height is 6 feet, my reach is about 8, and check out how far these bananas are. They're probably about another foot away from my hand, so about 9 feet to the bottom of the bunch, and it continues up. One of the helpful tips when it comes to harvesting is to basically saw, and I'm just using a plain old saw here, basically cut your way into the stalk of the parent somewhere around 2/3 and even as high as about 4/5 of the way up the stalk of the plant, and you basically cut halfway down, and the goal is it'll then bend its way, bringing that bunch of bananas down closer to your level but without hitting the ground. That's the ideal goal. However, that bunch of bananas is so close to the wall that I'm just going to simply go up the wall and harvest the bananas. Ideally, you'd have a second person helping out, but here we go. Here it goes. I got him. Let's bring that down. Here we are. This is fantastic. So once the parent plant has fruited, that's it. It's gonna start dying, and I'm gonna show you some examples just next to you over here. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna start bringing it down while I'm behind here on the wall. These plants are so close to one another. I'm gonna take off the leaves first so it doesn't knock off some of the blooms or damage some of the surrounding leaves of the other banana plants. So I'm bringing it down piece by piece. And here we go. This thing is full of water. This small section here probably weighs about 40 pounds. Here we go. And now we'll take off another section. And you can see how easily you can cut through it. About 5 to 10 strokes, another 10, 15 pounds. Now I'm coming down. I've been eating, by the way, for the last week, this section of ripe bananas, and I should have done this video at least 2 or 3 days ago when it was just the top of the bunch beginning to ripen. These are now starting to shrivel up, which is fine. The flavor should be still wonderful, but I could have been harvesting this and enjoying bananas ripening over the last few days inside my house instead of having now just a lot of ripe bananas. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just start eating as many of these as I can right now. I'm gonna share with you the benefits in just a moment. This is so cool. The ice cream, also known as the Java banana, has a hint of vanilla flavor. And we've been harvesting these for the last, again, this is our 3rd year. And it's my favorite performer, my favorite flavor we've so far enjoyed, now for the 3rd consecutive year. Is awesome. Okay, so we've had our fill of bananas. Let me just share with you now the health benefits of bananas, which I picked up here from Healthline. It's a website which talks about the 11 evidence-based benefits of bananas. And let's just flip through the pages real fast. It says bananas contain many important nutrients. So you can see that it's got potassium, 9% of the recommended amount, a very important also element when fertilizing your banana plants. Vitamin B6, vitamin C, magnesium, copper, manganese. The net carbs, 24 grams, fiber, 3.1 grams, proteins, 1.3 grams, and fat, less than a half a gram. Turn the page here, it says bananas contain nutrients that moderate blood sugar levels. Continue turning the page. Bananas may improve digestive health. That's due to the fiber that's in there. And if we turn the page some more. 4, bananas may aid in weight loss. 5, bananas may support heart health. 6, bananas contain powerful antioxidants. 7, bananas may help you feel more full. 8, unripe bananas may improve insulin sensitivity. 9, bananas may improve kidney health. 10, bananas may have benefits for exercise. And lastly, bananas are easy to add to your diet. I'm talking about diet, what we're gonna do now, since we've got an abundance of bananas, what we're gonna do is basically peel the bananas and then put them in Ziploc freeze bags. And we typically use those frozen bananas for smoothies or incorporate them into other desserts, just as that last statement says. Easy to incorporate into your diet, but if you have some other suggestions on how you would use a lot of ripe bananas, please share with us. One of my favorite desserts using these ice cream bananas has been simply using an organic cocoa powder, 100% cocoa, with these bananas, and then just add a non-dairy milk such as almond or coconut milk, and you'll have the best chocolate tasting smoothie ever. Today, loved it, and just knowing I'm getting all of this nutrition coming directly from the sun and directly from the earth with all of these antioxidant, all of these health benefits coming into my body instantly compared to the store-bought bananas that were harvested days, weeks, or even months ago before it ever makes it into your home. So the value of having homegrown produce is second to none. And now let's get on to cloning. Follow me. So the first step when removing the parent plant is to not go any further than about 50% of the way down the stalk. The idea is that by pruning it and giving it a chance to absorb some of those nutrients back into the crown, as you can see, this here is the parent plant that gave us the bananas. Let me just quickly cut that down to about the 50% mark. Here we go. And all of this is going to be recycled now back into and around the crown. As you can see, I'm sitting here on a mound that is now 3 generations old. When we first planted these plants, no larger than some of these sucker pups that are at the base. We're going to talk about these shortly. So all of the parts that we've pruned from that parent plant, we're now going to break into some smaller pieces and simply recycle it around the base of the plant. And all of the nutrients and elements that went into creating it are now going to break down, get recycled by all of the soil biology, which includes the earthworm beneficial bacteria and the beneficial mycorrhizal fungi. And we're simply going to recycle all of this back into the soil to now benefit the next generation of bananas. Some of you may remember this Goldfinger banana. We harvested bananas in the middle of winter, and this entire side of my property, when we discuss microclimates, as there's some parts of your property that might be more shady during the year and other parts that are the most sunny during parts of the year, and there's different zones that things will thrive better on one part of your garden, and if it fails, try another corner, try another area. There's different soil types, there's different light requirements, and this year these bananas are growing in an area that gets the least amount of light, but they thrive because I've grown some very tall varieties that those leaves reach the sunlight during the winter months, whereas the rest of the plants is in the shade. All of these sucker pups that you see near the base didn't quite exist, or they may have been very small just a few months ago, but they've all been in the shade and living to the success of this parent plant that provided us those bananas and has since been dying back. what we're gonna do today is we're gonna remove this parent plant, and I should have done this again months ago, and the goal again is to gradually bring it down, starting at 50% and working your way to the ground. But when you come to the ground also, and my lesson to you is keep it a good few inches off the ground, because the goal is you don't want all of that soil bacteria coming into the crown. You want it to naturally dry and be exposed to the air and die back in a healthy manner rather than being under the ground. And this is just my preference, and it's a minor issue, but when it comes again to pruning, I'm just going to keep it a few inches off the ground, because you can see as I'm cutting, look at all the juice and the life that's still in that parent plant, even though we've harvested these bananas about 4 to 6 months ago. And here we go. And the reason we're pruning it now, if you take a look at these leaves, you can see that it's died back, and there's just a little bit of green left with that last leaf that it made right before it fruited, right off this point over here. So all of these resources have gone down into the crown, kept these pups alive until the light finally returned to this part of the garden. And now without the parent there, these pups will thrive and grow extremely well during the rest of summer, fall, and going into early winter, where they then go back into dormancy. And even though I say dormant, they still remain green, but their growth is pretty much null. They don't grow at all during the winter, being that the temperatures are so low. Both daytimes highs are too low, and the nighttime lows are even lower. So the plants pretty much rest during the winter. And when you take a look at the leaves of, for example, the patterns going back to the ice cream banana plants, you may notice that some of the lower leaves are all shredded. Those are the winter leaves, but if you go up a little higher, you now see the summer growth. Those are the leaves that have pushed itself out in just the last 30 to 60 days, and you can see how beautiful it is. So what once looked like a kind of a ghostly, haunted looking banana plant is coming back to that tropical look that we originally brought these plants into our garden. So when they look bad in the winter, just hang tight. By summertime, all of the new leaves push, making all of those shredded leaves kind of just disappear. Well, let's continue removing the stalk. And you can see again how much life is coming out of here. Look at all the water. It's just oozing around the sides. Just about there. Here we go. And now we'll pull it out. And there we go. And again, we'll break that down and recycle it throughout the garden as well. And this here is now a pup that we're going to be cloning. And cloning means genetically identical fruit. This particular Goldfinger variety banana has 1, 2, and right behind it, 3 pups. All of these dead leaves, this is a good time to start cleaning things up. We're gonna go with our saw, or you can actually even better use your paper scissors. And with our thick scissors, we can simply cut these leaves out. So all of the dead, dying, diseased looking leaves from the winter can now come out, leaving the plant looking great. And as I'm cleaning this up, I just discovered some more pups. So here we go again. Pup number 1, pup number 2 just behind it, a large pup number 3 over here. We can continue pruning, and then here's pup number 4 as well. So we've got all of these pups. All of these pups that could potentially create more parent plants and more bananas for the many more years to come. However, in the banana community, growers typically recommend having 2 to 3 pups grow to become the parents and ultimately, create that bunch of bananas for you. And in my experience, if you have 3, as we did again with those apple varieties, you can see that there's 2, and there was a third one that pretty much broke in half on its own on a windy Santa Ana windy day that we had last year. But we had the 3, but I was expecting these to fruit last year. Like the timing was just right for them to fruit last year. And it's my opinion that by having 3 and the resources that are required to support 3 banana plants probably delayed that fruiting process compared to had I had only 1 or 2. So that's another consideration to have, being whatever the soil, nutrients and conditions are. If you have 1 plant, the requirements will be less and you can expect more performance out of that 1 plant compared to if you have 2 or 3 all living off of the same crown. All of these are dependent. All of these sucker growths, pups, are dependent on that same crown that originated here with this particular parent plant. And this is now not even the 2nd generation. We're actually on the 3rd generation with this Goldfinger banana as well, as we are with the ice cream banana. But what I want to do now is, you can see that I'm here next to the wall. I've basically got my leg on here, that's part of the walkway, and I don't want the bananas to continue growing towards this side. I kind of want to leave this as soil. Otherwise, these will continue to create sucker growth, approaching and encroaching on our concrete walkways. So I'm going to actually pull these back and allow the suckers on the backside to grow. And when it comes to cloning are genetically identical plants. By taking out one of these pups, we're going to have a genetically identical fruit, quality, flavor, and consistent yields similar to that parent plant. And that's the reason that you clone them. Additionally, the reason you clone them is because these bananas are seedless. You can't otherwise propagate Goldfinger bananas, Manzano bananas, or ice cream bananas because they don't have seeds. There's other varieties of bananas that do grow from seed, but then you'd be expecting to eat a banana fruit that's got seeds in it. So, and that's not something that most people are even accustomed to, even though I know there's some delicious flavors of seedful or small quantities of seeds that you can expect within your banana plant. Well, let's get to cloning, which means we're going to take one of these pups off the parent plant. Let's get started with that. So I've decided with this Goldfinger variety banana that I'm going to remove both of the suckers over here, and I'm leaving the 2, one larger and one smaller sucker that's behind it. Again, the goal is I want to drive the future stalks of bananas to be away from the concrete. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to take our shovel here, and I'm directing it between the sucker pup and the crown. And the goal is I'm not going straight down. I'm actually trying to get into the crown, and I can actually, even with my hand, I mean, our soil quality is so good, I can kind of get that in position, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of pressure here, and I'm going to try to get some roots out of the crown. And we're going to pull back. And here we go. And now we've got our first pup right here, and you can see all the roots that we got. This is a success. And you can see that it popped right off of the crown right there. And now we're going to do the same with the second. The goal now, being that the sun's out, is we're going to try to hide this in the shade, and we're going to try to keep the sun off of those roots. Let's take off the second pup. And again, these are genetically identical clones to the parent plant, so we can expect the same excellent results. And we're trying to get into the crown a little bit, and we're pulling back. We would never do this at a time when the plant is flowering or fruiting, as you can see that we're putting quite a bit of stress into that crown with removing these pups. And to do this successfully, so I only recommend doing this particular procedure regardless of the time of year after you've finished harvesting your bananas. That's the ideal time. And here we go. I can feel a ton of roots coming out with this one. And check that out. Plenty of roots, a lot of health going on. And now let's get these planted together. We're protecting the crown again, backfilling the soil immediately, compacting it just to make sure all of those exposed areas are in contact with soil, and we'll immediately be watering this area too in just a few short minutes. Let's get to getting these pups into a safe place. So now we're going to be discussing the topic of transplanting. Follow me. So here we are now with the Goldfinger banana pup. I've already added some potting mix to this container. I'm using, as some of you may have noticed, I've been spending some time at the Laguna Hills Nursery with Gary, who's the owner. This is called Gary's Best potting soil, and the acid mix would be ideal for obviously your blueberries. I've got some of this and I've got some other potting soils, but what I want to discuss when it comes to your potting soil mixes is to use something that's going to retain water better than using a topsoil or a compost mix or a variety of other mixes that would be ideal for your in-ground plantings. I know I got a question in this last week in regards to a grow box, and I'm like, just use potting soil for your grow boxes because they're elevated and that water's gonna basically pass through a lot faster than it otherwise would be in the ground. And that's the reason to specifically be looking for a potting soil mix. This is the only bag of potting soil mix that I've got here on my property today, but I found some other products as well with pots, as you can see here. And let's take a look at Gary's Best. You can see what is so wonderful about it is it's got a lot of perlite in it, it's got some pumice in it, and those things are inorganic, meaning that they're mineral based and they're not going to break down quickly. Whereas if you put compost and you fill up your container with compost, as you know, with compost it breaks down quickly and your plant's going to settle and the whole root system is going to collapse. So it's really important to use a potting soil for your potted plants. So I've already put some potting soil in here. I'm putting the root ball within it, and I'm simply going to take some of that potting soil and now backfill it around the roots and trying to eliminate any of the air pockets within it. I've got some of these cracked pots that we use at the bottom to basically block the drain holes. And now we're going to continue with Gary's Best, and I'm going to fill that up all the way around the root zone of the plant. And as I go with my fingers, I'm basically trying to get around the roots and eliminate any of those air pockets. So we're filling that in like so. And that's it. Next up, water. And when watering, whether it's your potted plants or your in-ground plants, the general tip is to soak the plant and make sure that entire root ball is very wet, and not to water it again until the soil is pretty much dry but never bone dry. Again, this applies to your potted plants and your in-ground plants. The goal is don't allow them to be continuously wet, nor do you want it to be so bone dry that the plant is stressing out for water as well, and that's also affecting all the soil biology. Again, think about the worms and the beneficial bacteria and the beneficial mycorrhiza that's living in your soil. They all need water, so the goal is to water that entire zone around your plants. So again, we're going to continue soaking it just to make sure all of that soil, all of those roots are in contact with water. It's also a good practice to help with transplant shock, whether it be in a potted container already, or just like me, you're removing these pups and transplanting them to other parts of your garden or into containers, is to cut the leaves in half. By pruning the leaves by 50%, what you're doing is you're reducing the risk of transpiration by 50%. The goal in the first week is to make sure that the plant doesn't lose too much water. And so we are going to be pruning the leaves by 50%. And again, these are going to be, even though it looks so beautiful the way it is now, these are going to be the old leaves within the next 30 to 60 days. It's going to push out so many more beautiful leaves. It's going to gain a lot more height. We just want to make sure that the plant is not stressed, that it overcomes all of the stress that we've given it, and that it begins to perform as soon as possible. And here we go. The next step for helping against transplant shock is we're going to use this. And this is the Ivory Organics 3-in-1 Plant Guard Ready to Use Spray, protection against damaging sunburn, insects, and rodents. And the way this product works, let me pull my sheet here. is that you can see over here for cloning and transplanting, again, the Ivory Organics 3-in-1 plant guard, protection against damaging sunburn insects and rodents for use in your organic production, healthier than latex tar-based products for use on your roses, fruit, nut trees, ornamental trees, and shrubs, helps reduce, serves as an anti-transparent, reduce transplant shock, and seals pruned surfaces, growing outdoors, no problems, curb weather extremes, both summer sunburn and winter sun scald and windburn, total plant protection for leaves, stems, and trunks. And then the rodent repellent benefits and insect repellent benefits, you can see that the oils that exist within it include castor, peppermint, spearmint, rosemary, garlic, cinnamon, cloves, peppermint, rosemary oil. And now the products are now starting to incorporate diatomaceous earth and the benefits that come with that as well. This product over here is also the 3-in-1 pint-sized can that makes, it's also Armory listed, we're proud about. You can see over here, makes a brush-on direction simply by filling up the can with water. It's got the foliar spray direction, makes 5 gallons of that ready-to-use spray bottle, so about 20 to 25 spray bottles. And you can also make this product by using 1/3 to 1/2 of a teaspoon of powder with 5 to 10 drops of the oil, and you'll end up with one of these. And again, your pint can make 20 to 25 ready-to-use spray bottles, and what we're going to do right now is spray the entire plant structure, and I'm going to share with you what that's going to look like. So when you apply the product, you see it kind of has like the appearance of milk, but it's pretty much serving as a sun screen. It's going to dry on almost completely clear. You're still going to see that there's evidence of the product. What it's going to do is help reflect some of the excess rays, and even on a beautiful day, 75-degree day, it can still be getting sun stress. As we're going now into summer, 14-hour daylight hours, that's a lot of stress on the plant. This here is going to help get some of that excess rays off the plant and help also the plant retain moisture, as it serves as an anti-transparent as well, helping the plant retain moisture so it can maintain its turgid nature and basically stay upright until those roots finally get established and the plant can continue maintaining itself and ultimately pushing out new growth in the very short future. Another important thing to do for your banana plants is to mulch. I brought over here is basically a bucket of wood chips. You can see I'm just going to scatter a good 2 to 3 inch layer of protection around the topsoil. This is not integrated into the soil, but just basically serves as a blanket on the top. And what these wood chips are going to do is numerous. One, it's going to help the plants in the summer stay cooler. In the winter, it's going to help the plants stay warmer. As the wood chips break down, these wood chips basically were derived from a tree, so all the elements that went into making the tree are breaking down now, continuously feeding your plant with each watering. It's also going to help also keep and suppress weeds that are in that root zone as well. And that's just a very short list of the benefits. Another one that just comes to mind is watering. By putting this blanket of wood chips on the surface, it's going to help the soil retain moisture for longer periods of time, saving you money on watering, and also allowing, in case you forget a day, the risk of damage to the plant is going to be less than if you've got your wood chips around the base of the plant. And you can see I've got this practice around all of my plants in the garden. Come and check out, for example, over here, my ice cream banana. You can see. So in addition to having all of these bananas, and we've got some more leaves to dress on top, you can see that we've also got some hay. If I can go here with my hand tool, you can see it's actually several inches of hay. And then below that, you can see we're getting back into some more wood chips as well. And it's just layer after layer after layer of just gardening scraps from the garden. And what that does, again, are all the lessons that we just talked about. Retaining moisture, continuously feeding the plant, and suppressing the weeds. As you can see, there's no weeds, and I don't even pick weeds. In a year, I might have 1, 2, or 3 total for the entire year in this entire zone, as the bananas are just reaping all the benefits that are coming out of the soil here, and that mulch is suppressing all of the unwanted growth. Now let's talk about actually feeding your plants. As we read at the beginning, bananas are very high in potassium. Where do they get that potassium from? At the end of the day, that potassium is coming from your soil. And the Ivory Organics 6 macros plus fertilizers have all of the macronutrients plants need. That includes nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, sulfur, and calcium. Nitrogen and the K, which is your potassium, are the elements the plants need in abundance, specifically your banana plants. The NPK on here, as you can see, are quite high relative to the average organic fertilizer, and that's the reason we've also come up with the premium blend fertilizers that have a lower NPK of 2-4-4, which means 2% nitrogen, 4% phosphorus, 4% potassium. Still has the magnesium, sulfur, and calcium, giving your plants all of the macronutrients plants need, unlike pretty much any other organic and even synthetic fertilizer that's on the market. And that was the reason for the birth of 6 Macros Plus, to deliver all of the macronutrients plants need. And what we're going to do is simply open the product like so. I want to show the back of the label too before I show you the inside of this. If you can take a look here, you can see that the product is derived from, check out these ingredients. And I'm just reading the top line. Feather meal, alfalfa meal, fishbone meal, kelp meal, cottonseed meal, potassium sulfate, glacial rock dust, which is the equivalent of azomite. On the bottom line, there's zeolite powder, which is again another product that's like azomite in the sense that it has crushed rock micronutrient properties. And then there's that glacial rock dust, neem cake rock phosphate, oyster shell flour. And take a look at all those micronutrients: irons, manganese, zinc, copper, boron. And the product can be used for just simply applying to your soil, for your vegetables and your annuals, for foliar feeding. You can basically dissolve this in water and water the entire plant, leaves and all. And also add this at a rate of a tablespoon to a gallon of water as a added supplement to your compost tea. And what we're going to do now is just take our measuring spoon here. And what we're going to do here is we're simply going to take a tablespoon of the product, and we can just scatter this around the root zone. You can feel free to incorporate this with your other favorite organic fertilizers, and to kind of add, for example, something that has higher nitrogen if you want to keep driving the direction of the plant with more growth. The phosphorus, important for flowering and fruiting. Potassium, as we saw, bananas are very high in potassium, so you're going to want to make sure that those elements are available so that the bananas can fully develop. And magnesium, which is the heart of the chlorophyll molecule. Sulfur, which is also very important for greening. And calcium, which is in all the cell walls of the plants. So we're making sure all of the macronutrients, and again, a lot of the micronutrients are available to the plant. And we're just scattering a few of the tablespoons. Even though these pups look small, their crown is quite huge. And so we're feeding this entire root zone, and you're going to see these pups grow at an astronomically fast rate because these plants are now 3 years established. These are not brand new young pups. As the sucker clones that we transplanted, we can expect slower growth with them relative to these now established crowns that we've got here in the garden. Once you've scattered the fertilizer on the soil, if you're going to be doing it as a granular fertilizer, you're going to want to try to get that fertilizer in contact with the soil. So all of this mulch that you see near the surface, we're going to try to want to get it in contact with the soil. So we're trying to just move around the top mulch and get the soil in contact with I'm trying to get the fertilizer in contact with the soil. And the product begins working as soon as you begin watering. So make sure, especially after all the stress that we brought to this crown, make sure you soak the banana plant very well. One other thing I want to share with you as I continue watering after this lesson is I want to share with you that these bags, 11.8 ounce bag makes up to 20 gallons, and I want to share that with you. And you can see here is the premium makes 20 gallons, and then the larger 4-pound bag can make up to 120 gallons of liquid fertilizer that's delivering all of the macronutrients that plants need. So I've got over here my watering can with 2 gallons of water. So I'm going here with 2 tablespoons of the fertilizer. And so 1 tablespoon per gallon. This is 2 gallons, so we put 2 tablespoons. So I'm now simply going to stir the product. If you filter it, you can basically add it to your pressurized sprayer and use it as a foliar spray, or you can simply do it as a drench on top of the plant. I'm removing this end so that none of the product gets stuck in this, as I have not filtered it, but if you filter it again, there's more benefits and more uses on how you can use the product. And now we're simply going to water all of these other plants behind that we do not fertilize, except now we're using it as a liquid feed, and we can get the product around to more plants a lot faster here in the garden. Leaves and all. The point with the liquid fertilizer is you're gonna have to feed your plants more frequently than if you do it as a granular fertilizer, as the liquid fertilizer is a lot lower dose than the granular application you'll be adding to your garden. If you found this lesson informative and educational, please give us a thumbs up, and most importantly, don't forget to subscribe and hit that push bell notification so you get informed of these educational videos that come out only a few times per month as soon as they become available. So please don't forget to hit that push bell notification. As always, keep growing with Ivory Organics, and wishing you all happy gardening.